Before I talk about molecules of cells, I want you to think about what you already know about molecules of cells. What are molecules of cells? And as you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I ain't got a clue. Do you eat? What is it you eat? What molecules are listed on the back of a food label? What provides the calories? If you're a bodybuilder, what do you care about? If you're a vegetarian, what do you worry about? Molecules of cells. Let's talk about them. The book tells you what, every chapter tells you what it's going to tell you about. It's going to introduce you to organic compounds. It's going to give you a structure. It's going to introduce you to organic compounds, and then it's going to jump right into the molecules of cells. The four molecules of cells that we're going to be talking about are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. 3 out of those 4 should be familiar to you guys, from nutrition labels, right? And one of those you may have heard of in like some detective CSI something or another show. But let's introduce organic compounds. Organic compounds, unlike organic chemistry, are compounds that have a basis of a carbon, that are carbon-based. We are a carbon-based life form. Carbon is a tramp. Carbon does a beautiful job at building Tinker Toys, or Connects, or whatever, is the toy du jour that you build little sticking things with. Everything with. I usually show this slide after that to remind you that there's something that you know here. Propane, butane, you've heard these before, right? And so the take home here is, this is gas, right, in your gas grill. This butane is actually it's the gas in a lighter. And isobutane, iso, has the same formula, but a different configuration, and therefore a different characteristic, but that's neither here nor there. Anytime you have a long chain of carbons and a bunch of hydrogens around it, this thing contains energy. As a matter of fact, gasoline, long chain of carbons with a bunch of hydrogens around it. Diesel, long chain of carbons with a bunch of hydrogens around it. There's a meme going around right now that margarine is sort of like gasoline or something like that. Yes, it is. Long chain of carbons with a bunch of hydrogens around it. Just like butter, just like fats, just like all of them. Same thing. Don't be fooled by memes like that. The other thing we got to think about is functional groups when we're talking about organic compounds. Organic compounds, so you've got the background, the backbone that just kind of holds the structure together. Sometimes it contains energy within the bonds. The functional group are the ones that interact with each other easily, and you're going to encounter those over and over again. A lot of the functional groups have one thing in common, which is that they have a carboxy group or an oxygen or hydrogen that is easily going to react with water. Everything in biology is in water. We forget that sometimes and we don't talk about it, but basically most reactions actually happen in liquid. even in your body, your lungs, they're actually, what happens in your lungs, it needs a liquid surface, it needs a moist surface in order to work, which is why your lungs are moist on the inside of your body. A fish doesn't need that, which is why a fish has gills. But that's neither here nor there. So think about the fact that everything usually works in an aqueous environment. But with that in mind, here you've got the hydroxyl group, just a little OH over there. Add a hydrogen somewhere, right? You can then easily remove this. And that's the whole thing about functional groups. Functional groups are things that react with other things. So this hydroxyl group could easily react with something. Carbonyl group, same thing. You've got a double bond oxygen. This double bond, there's an electron that can bind to something. The carboxyl group, this group, the amino and the carboxyl group, you're going to encounter those in amino acids. The phosphate group, you're going to encounter that for starters in ATP. You're going to encounter this a couple of more times. And then the methyl group, things that are methylated. We're going to talk about methylated compounds a lot. A methyl is a very small little thing you can just stick on a compound that makes all the difference in the world. And an example here, for example, testosterone and estradiol. The big difference here is there are a couple of methyl groups at different places, and it completely changes the function of this particular hormone. Now, when we're going to talk about macromolecules, molecules of cells, we're going to have to talk about macromolecules. They're big molecules. They're polymers. They're made out of building blocks. The building blocks are called monomers. And here's, we're going to talk a little bit about Latin. Mono means one. So a monomer is a one something. And mer is actually a thing. Poly means many, so a polymer is a many thing. You know, macro means big, so macro is big molecules. Now, the way these polymer, these many things are being put together is by a reaction that's called a dehydration reaction. Just like everything, this is where the secret language, look at the secret language, look at the word, what it says. Dehydration. De means away from, removal of. Hydration is the removal of water. So dehydration, they're linked together by removal of water. It sounds a little weird, but we're going to see a picture in just a second. And they're broken apart by hydrolysis. So lysis, that means breaking apart. And hydrolysis, there's water involved in this breaking apart. And it turns out that the addition of water breaks them apart. This is done by enzymes, and we're going to have to talk very specifically about what enzymes do, but that's its own little video. So this is how this hydrolysis and dehydration reaction works. So you've got this hydroxyl group over here, right? You've got a free hydrogen over there. And then when these two get together, they react with each other. And there's a dehydration reaction that binds this together. The addition of water, you just find that weak bond and you separate these back out by adding a hydrogen and a hydroxyl on the other side, and splitting the water back up to do that. These reactions are done by enzymes. So what these enzymes do, they'll do things like, they'll hold on to the short polymer and this other short polymer, and they hold them close together, like physically hold them close together so that they'll react with each other.